Hey friends, I am back and in the house with Scott and Jamie. How are you guys doing today?
Good. How was vacation?
Great. Vacation was awesome. Yes.
That's awesome.
Love a good vacation. I got to go on my first trip with just my husband at Post Kids.
Wow.
Right? And
that's a big deal.
That's a big deal. Yeah. It was long, 7 days, which is a very long time. Anyone who's married, highly recommend some kind of getaway with your spouse.
Awesome. For sure. Well done.
Or even a date night. That's good
there you
too.
Go. Yeah, that's right. You can't do that at least a date night.
Just do what you can do. But no, it was great. It was fun. It was good to go on vacation, but it's really good to be back. Scott, I came back to week 4 of Ephesians, and a great message. We're still in chapter 2 of Ephesians, but halfway through our series.
Yes.
So orient us to where we are, what Paul is doing. You talked about it at the beginning of your message this week, but I think for everyone listening, we're going to dive into some big topics today. Yeah. And so just to reorient us to where we are and what Paul's up to.
Yeah, I think Ephesians, again, a lot of it's called the Cathedral of the New Testament because it is so deep and there is so much there. And Paul's writing from a Roman prison to a congregation he loves and he knows really well. He lived with these people for more than 2 years. So he plants the church in Ephesus. He lives with them for more than 2 years. These are people he knows their first names. He's been in their homes. He has eaten with them. Yeah. He knows the issues. He knows where they are. He has kept up relationships with them. And he's in a situation where he's looking at this thinking, is this the last communication I get with you or not? And he's attempting to have this very, very large letter that he writes them. And he begins the letter with massive theological ideas that are super deep, ideas about how God chooses in the world and how he sets up his entire redemptive plan and what salvation looks like and what, grace and faith and all these things are and how God has a plan for us individually and a plan for the world and how he is basically making a new humanity that's going to remake new creation. Yeah. All of this is wrapped up in just like paragraphs. Yes, yeah. like this is just laid out right in this unbelievable thing. And he then shifts gears, which is where we are. And there's 2 gear shifts. And this is the first. And he shifts gears. Now he lays out all that God is doing in the world and what the implications are to what does it mean to be God's people in the world.
Yeah.
And that's what we just started. What does it actually mean to follow God in the world? What does it mean to be the church? What does it mean to actually be the counterbalance to everything else that's happening in the world? And this is the first thing he does. He'll shift again later and get even more practical.
Yeah.
Of what does it mean to live as an individual Christian in the world, and how do we do that? And so, but for this one, he shifts gears abruptly, but ties it in seamlessly, and is basically saying and begins by addressing. He'll move to a much more visionary posture for the church, but he begins in a very practical space. Yeah. And he addresses a huge controversy of his day, which is the Jew-Gentile conflict.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, we don't often talk about things like that.
Right.
But back in the day, like if you were a Roman, you would have seen the world divided into 2 peoples. Even though there was all these nations, tribes, and tongues and peoples, you would see Romans and barbarians. Our term barbarian was used by a Roman to mean everybody else.
Okay.
You're not a Roman. And so they were civilized, and you were not, because you were not part of their civilization. Now, we would say, wow, that's a little bit, arrogant, and it's actually a lot arrogant. My heritage was actually the prototype barbarian that they were looking at, saying, you are not one of us and you are not civilized. But there were other nations that had titles or terms like that too. And Jewish folks would say you were either Jewish or Gentile, and by that they were meaning the same thing. You and particularly some Jews would even have said Jewishness means living in Israel. Jewishness is being the people of the land. Jewishness is being the people of the covenant, the land, the history. And if you were Jewish outside of the land, they might not have considered you a Gentile, but that would have been an issue for you. But they would have definitely said there's the people of the land and then there's everybody else. And the everybody else is a Gentile. When Jesus comes and dies on the cross, raises from the dead, changes literally everything. There's a new people being birthed that we now call Christians. And at this time, about half of them are Jewish and about half of them are not. And they're now figuring out how to live together. Mm-hmm. And they're figuring out a new identity.
Yeah.
Because the two identities they've had coming into this no longer really fully apply. But the thing that they realize is, on the one hand, it's very theological and very philosophical. Who are we, and what is our relationship to God, and how shall we now live? Mm-hmm. On another, it's intensely practical. Like, I don't like the food you eat.
Yeah.
I don't like the clothes you wear. I don't like how you sing. I don't like your music. And frankly, I think you're a little bit argumentative, mm-hmm. right? And those types of things were just a thing, and they were irritating each other. Mm-hmm. And it became a full-blown conflict because the Jewish Christians were like, hey, you need to be more Jewish. Like, you need to have reverence minimally for the people who've gone before you. And beyond that, you need to start understanding that this is a Jewish movement. Mm-hmm. And the Gentiles were like, hey, man, I don't think so. You're living in a Greek city.
Yeah.
And you're part of our history. And this is now part of our history as much as it's part of yours. And so the reality, it was a massive clash. And in that, again, as we talked about, there were kind of three ways that they could look at it. The one is you need to pick a side and win.
Yeah.
Right? And you need to back a horse in this race.
Yeah.
Or you need to referee it. And you need to say, I'm just going to we're going to compromise our way out of this, or we're going to attempt to officiate this. And the third would have been, we're just going to ignore it and hope it goes away.
Yeah.
And Paul picks a fourth. And I think that's the genius of this passage. And that's what sets up a radically different way to see what that is.
Yeah, and I think there's, like, we look at the context of the time period that we're in, just like you laid out, Scott, and there's things that are different, right? But so much of what you said sounds so similar to things that we experience right now, today. And so Paul, I think it's brilliant in the way of like, and maybe he had some idea of like, this is a humanity problem, and people later down the road will read this, but he's clearly writing for right then and right now. But it's tale as old as time, right?
Yes.
Like, we can read it today, and this fourth way that he's introducing is still so applicable to the division that we see, to all of these us versus them realities that we live in, wanting to close our eyes to the problem and go to sleep.
Totally.
And miss it, wake up and hope it just goes away.
Totally.
But this fourth way, what is it that he's proposing?
Yeah, I mean, I look at it and I think we talked about it. For me, he's talking about the fact that you can have diversity in unity, mm-hmm. which is really different if there's submission in Christ. Meaning, if we sink our roots in Christ and we bring our lives and our cultures with open hands and allow Jesus to reform us mm-hmm. into something very different than what we have been and who we have been, and allow his values to become our values.
Yeah.
His perspectives to become our perspectives, his way of life to become our way of life. Mm-hmm. We still hold on to secondary differences, right? That make us us, that we're not all the same. But a lot of the primary moral, ethical, value pieces we become more like Jesus. And as we do, we form a new humanity that has enough diversity in it. It means we don't all have to eat the same food.
Right.
We don't all have to dress in the same style. We don't all have to like the same music, right? And we can have that. And I think that's one of the beautiful parts of Christianity in its flourishing, even mm-hmm. in one place, is you can have some of that diversity, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, this is why secular multiculturalism fails. Mm-hmm. And we talked about that a little bit too, because you want the fruit without the root.
Right.
You want to have the fruit of a unified diversity without the root of becoming like Jesus. Mm-hmm. And the reality is you have conflict and fragility without that type of sacrifice. And it mm-hmm. begins to fray and fall apart. And, phrases that we've become accustomed to, like, we're all better together. We're only better together when we have solved this.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not better together until we do solve it.
Yeah.
And I think there's things like that I think we need to challenge a little bit in the midst of it. And Paul's not proposing a secular multiculturalism.
Right.
He's proposing a unity in Christ that has massive diversity attached to it.
Yeah. And I think Paul recognizes something of like, for everything, there has to be a center of it.
Yes.
Right? Every group forms around something at the center. And so it's what is the center of this new humanity?
Exactly.
And he's telling us that that's Jesus. Right? And I think that we see this. It almost feels like as you read through it, like I get the picture of like flipping the lenses in a microscope, kind of.
Yeah.
Like you go from back to like, oh, I'm going closer and closer and closer, and you get this like worldview.
Yes.
And now we're going in a little bit, and as we go through the book, we're going to get tighter and tighter into like an
That's
individual
really good,
person. Thank you.
Yeah.
I've used a microscope before.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
Yeah,
I know.
man, that's awesome.
In like the 8th grade when I dissected a frog, but yeah, and so that's like the picture that I get in my mind. So I think right now we're on this like we're looking at the world as a whole, right? And how we're looking at unity. But what I want to talk about for a little bit is you dove into some pretty big topics this weekend that divide us as a culture. And I think if we just look at some of those again and go a little bit deeper within them, these are hard conversations.
They're very hard conversations.
What do you guys think about where people, like where we're living now in these hard conversations, and why is it so hard?
Yeah, Jamie, I know that you like to shy away from hard conversations.
I do. I actually think, Scott, this was, it would be easy for people to just listen to this one message in the series and let it be a small part of this. Mm-hmm. I think this actually might be the most important message in the series for us as a church. I think we are... Right now, we live in my lifetime, at least, and I can't speak for 2,000 years, but in my lifetime, this is the most the world has ever felt like a constant pressure cooker. I mean, there are literally, if you're paying attention, there are 6 issues a day where we're being asked to form an opinion or draw a conclusion about, to choose one side or the other. And
which can we just say is impossible?
Right. Well, but even as a Christian, level 1 is how should I think about this? What would Jesus think about this? Level 2 then is how should I live in light of this? Which is an incredible, even more challenging question than getting the first one right, which is incredibly hard in and of itself. And so thinking about what it means to be
well, and I would even add a third.
Yeah.
How do I have a witness of the world in this?
Well, this is the thing, right? Because even getting ourselves out of the mindset of I want to be on the winning side, or even more so, I don't want to be on the losing side, and stepping back and being able to have a different lens through which to view this, I think is something that most Christians never get past. And so I think that's even the first step into this. And so I do think this is a timely message.
But to your point, too, I look at my news feed every day, and I am being asked to somehow understand minimally 6 issues that maybe I have never seen before every single day, which my temperament and my personality is one of where I feel inadequate. Like I don't have a degree in public policy. I don't have all of the information that people who are decision makers in many of these things have. And it feels like it puts an undue pressure on me to pick a group over picking issues. Instead of attempting to actually solve answers, I have the pressure now that I just need to pick the group who's going to solve all the answers.
Yeah.
And I think I just think that's a dangerous slope to get on.
Well, let me make it even worse before
Awesome.
we get better. Yeah, I
Can
am.
you do that?
If I am nothing else, if I am not a.
And we should say you and I have very deep conversations around a lot of this for a long, long time, and respect each other deeply.
But robust conversations.
We don't
always see eye to eye.
They don't
No,
hold
we
back.
don't always see eye to eye. But like really seriously love each other and seriously respect each other.
And I'm grateful for all the times you come and tell me how wrong you were. When you
and I do. And I do. I have absolutely had to do that because I have been wrong.
I am nothing.
I'm still waiting on that from you.
Yeah, I know, right? When I'm wrong, you'll be the first to know.
When that day comes around. Exactly.
I am nothing if not a Gen X stereotype, and Gen Xers, their core value is authenticity, right? We love authenticity at an extreme level, and the truth is we're not being asked to make an honest assessment of anything. We're being manipulated like crazy by forces we don't even understand.
I agree with that.
And so the task before us can
and
feel
when
almost
you say, and when
impossible.
you can I explain what I think?
Yeah.
Tell me if this is what you mean by that. You're not saying that every conspiracy theory is true, or that there's, we're not going to wear tinfoil hats and all these types of things.
Yeah.
But what you are saying is most of the stories, if not all the stories that we read, have a narrative.
Yeah.
And somebody is telling the story from a perspective because the perspective is what they want you to hold, and it will bend your answer to what they want. Is that what you're saying?
Well, largely. I am quite comfortable with tinfoil hats. And I am disturbed by the number of quote-unquote conspiracy theories that have turned out to be fairly accurate.
Those are. So, I have to say there is a few of those.
I'm not opposed to that direction, but
my point is you can't read any news feed and imagine it's objective.
When you start reading 3 or 4 different news sources coming from a different angle about any singular event, you get a portion of information, and it's exactly what you said. They are telling you some things and not telling you other things for a certain reason. When you start to explore what that reason is, you understand that they have an agenda.
Right.
Yeah.
And that they are pushing that agenda on you, and we are not immune to those agendas. We are influenced by those. They have shaped us profoundly. And so it makes all of this that much more complicated.
You're being discipled.
100%.
Yes.
And so if we don't realize that, if Christians don't realize that your news feed is designed to disciple you into a direction, I think we need to take a step back, and that's like, I get that is disconcerting. I don't like it. Like I don't want to live in that. Like I want people just to tell me the truth and like to be able, to the best they can, right? And leave the editorial alone. Yeah. And just and I'm old enough to remember the times when that was, I don't know if it was ever true, but it was more true than it is now. Of where there was the editorial section in the newspaper, and then there was the rest of the newspaper. And the rest of the newspaper simply would tell you what happened.
It was like, here are the facts.
Here are the facts. And I miss that. And sometimes I think it's easy to imagine we're still getting some of that. It's also harder today because there are algorithms.
Right.
So my news feed is curated to everything that I have ever liked. And everything by the amount of time that I've spent on one news story versus another. And I find I get more news stories just like that and more perspectives just like that one. Yes. And if I want to get out of that, I have to work very hard to have multiple perspectives in my news sourcing, or I'm only going to get one stream, which the problem is I'm now ever only hearing half a story.
Yeah.
And even if I lean that way politically or lean that way socially, I find I have to balance my own emotions and my own values by hearing other people. It's one of the reasons I love talking to you. And it's I'm able to learn from you, and I am able to gain from you in the midst of that. Yours and my conversations, Jamie, has been some of the best conversations I've ever been in.
Yeah, and I'll just say this. I personally use X for a lot of my news sourcing, and one of the things I like about that is there's now an option on every post that you can turn to AI, and the first question listed under there is this true? And AI will give you, from its perspective, an assessment of whether that is true or not. Now, AI has its own challenges, and we've had robust conversations. AI is, in essence, an aggregator. Yeah. And so it is not the arbiter of all truth.
No, and it's not a judge. It's simply an aggregator.
Right. And so you have to be cognizant of that and know how to use that. But there are, I think, increasingly helpful tools in which you can begin to discern what is true and what is real.
Yeah.
I think I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think under the surface, it's we see like the spiritual problem, right? Is that what is happening in the world is that it's been like bred for division. Like our news feeds are bred for division, and all of this is like bred for division. Like the fact that we can both open up an social media feed and see something wildly different, it creates division in our world, and
Totally.
there's a spiritual aspect to that as well.
Totally.
And I think that Paul's noting that in this reality of like, hey, this division here, this is not a godly thing. This is not a healthy thing. This is a problem, and there's a way for us to address this. And here's how we're going to address it, right? With Jesus, and he introduces this idea of unity.
Totally.
But the idea of unity is also controversial because what does that actually mean?
Yes.
Right? And so let's talk a little bit about that. Like we see division, but when we get into the problem, the solution of unity,
right,
we have different answers for the definition of that and what that means.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, Ellie, one of the things I liked that came out in this message was the idea that unity is shared surrender to Jesus. I think that's a beautiful vision.
Yep.
And I think that's right.
That's Christian unity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Christian unity. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I also think it's right. In my less optimistic moments,
have you had any of those?
in the last 20 minutes? There are times where I think it's impossible, but even in that, I think God is using that because it may actually be impossible. That actually may be real. Mm-hmm. But if it is impossible, it should make us long for the coming of Jesus even more because when he comes back, it will no longer be impossible. It will become inevitable. Mm-hmm. And so if Paul's vision accomplishes nothing other than to make us long for the return of Jesus and for his kingdom to come, then it's a worthwhile vision.
Yeah.
And so
I think it's not possible without him, right? Mm-hmm. With God, all things are possible.
Amen.
Right.
But he's introducing a possibility that's only possible by his Spirit and by being in his Spirit and being in Jesus. And I think that's like Paul's always like, well, you're not going to do this without Jesus, like this is a great idea, but you're not going to do it without him. But even then, like it comes to practicality,
right?
Like how practical is this to walk out unity in our world today?
I think it's practical. I don't think this was intended as an aspirational goal that no one can hit.
Yeah.
I actually think it was intended to actually be pursued. And let me tell you what I mean by that. I don't have any imagination. Like I look at the three of us, and I respect you both, and I love you both. Just
genuinely likewise.
Genuinely. Like I really, really do. Yes, genuinely. I have no imagination that if we listed 100 issues, that we're going to agree on all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no chance.
No chance. And I also have no imagination that I'm always right. And so I look at that and I think if my goal is not to assert myself, but my goal is to be right, I actually need to listen to you.
Yeah.
And I actually need to hear your thoughts because I'll be like, oh, I never thought that. I never had that idea.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I still might not even be sure it's right, but I want to entertain it for a minute, and I want to think about it, and I want to hear from you. Mm-hmm. And I find that can be a good thing. But what's really even helpful is when all three of us open up the Word of God and sit down and submit ourselves to it and say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to search the pages of Scripture. We're going to pray for God's guidance, and we're going to respect each other and love each other in the methods in which that we're doing this versus importing the world's way of arguing.
Yeah.
Right? The world's way of arguing is to assert yourself and to be dominant over the other people and to yell at them and to have conflict until the other person is exhausted with conflict and then they just can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. That's not how Christians do that.
Yeah.
And Scott, I think we've had a number of conversations that all of us that have been healthy and good and productive in that way. I think one of the reasons we're able to do that, honestly, and one of the things that people really struggle with, is that none of us feel threatened by the others, and none of us feel powerless against one another. I think most people look at the world around them, and they feel very threatened, and they feel very powerless, and they're scared.
I completely...
And that changes the dynamic
agree, but let's talk about that exact thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I hope one of the reasons that none of us in this room in the conversations we've had have felt that way is because the power that exists in this place has accepted humility and has accepted the ability of making Jesus first.
100%.
And so And that's not a small thing.
Yeah.
No, but how do you, in a world that doesn't carry that value, how do you?
I get it, but what I'm saying is there's Christian environments that don't even carry that value.
Right.
Oh, that's
Yes.
true.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying let's start there.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if Christian environments are behaving like the world, we have no hope of changing the world.
Yeah.
Because we're changing it into nothing. Because we haven't even yet arrived at enough of humility and enough love and other-centeredness that we're able to actually do that. And you know me, I'm not an argumentative person. I'm a peacemaker at heart, but I will fight you on this. Like this is stuff that I will go to the mat on, because I believe humility is essential. I believe love is essential. I believe faith is essential. And if you aren't creating a fabric of relationships that those things are just embedded and overflowing in, you are not going to end up in the right place.
Yeah.
And no, the world's not going to. And I want to shift to that, because the world is absolutely not doing that. And part of that is the world doesn't want that.
Right.
And the world wants to be right more than it wants what is right.
Yeah.
And in an environment like that, yes, there's times that's going to be inevitably conflict. Jesus had a ton of conflict in his life.
Yeah.
Jesus didn't shy away from conflict. Jesus was not unable to manage the world around him.
Yeah.
But he never took on its values.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a big piece of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't ever want somebody who is a sinner thinking they can't come to church because they're a sinner.
Yeah.
I don't want them to stay sinning in the way that they're sinning, and I want to be able to lead them into a community that can help them grow. But I also want people who are struggling to feel like this is a place and a people that they can attach themselves to that will love them and help them get better. Now, does that mean we challenge people? Say, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
We challenge assumptions, we challenge truths, we challenge these things.
Yeah.
And and do that. But so I want to just make that point before we talk about a world that is scary.
No, I think you're 100% right on that. I don't disagree with it at all, and I respect you for that. I think you've done a great job of cultivating that here at the chapel, and we are the church we are because of that. And so I'm 100% with you. I think when you get into the world, there's the difference between wanting other people to do what is right, right, which is something that I think we've looked at and wished for our entire lives. And then there's a world that is preventing you from doing what is right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that becomes it reminds me of the movie Hoosiers. All things come back to the Hoosiers.
Why am I not surprised?
Yes, exactly.
Right? Do you remember the line about two kinds of crazy?
I
guy
do.
that
I don't
goes
think
out,
you can quote that on this podcast.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'll just say the guy that
Look it
goes
up.
out and howls
Yeah.
at the moon without the other
Yeah.
essential elements of that, and then the guy that does it in your backyard, right?
Yeah.
One is kind of whatever, and the other you're kind of forced to deal with.
Yeah.
And so I think Scott, when you laid out those four things at the beginning of this podcast, those are all very, very true and right. And I think all of us, if we could, would choose to ignore them, right? Like that's an easy desire, at least on my part, is to just wish those things weren't present. I think to understand the nature of the kingdom of God is to understand that it's working to go over and against the dominion of darkness, which is present in this world, right? And so there's a big part of you can't embrace a theology of the kingdom of God without embracing the reality of the dominion of darkness.
Yeah.
The two go hand in hand.
That for the
Sure.
rest of us?
Biblically, the fabric of the dominion of darkness, its most essential elements is Satan, sin, and death. That there are demonic dark forces at work in the world. There's our own sin and brokenness, and there's sickness and disease.
And it's called a domain because it has taken such a large foothold.
Yeah,
in the world.
And is maybe the most profound shaping influence, is without question the most broadly profound shaping influence at work in the world, right? And so as Christians, as kingdom bringers, we are bringing the kingdom of God not in a vacuum, but we are bringing it over and against the darkness around us. The question that you rightly poised is, do we attempt to bring the kingdom in worldly ways?
Right.
Yeah.
Or is there a different way of bringing the kingdom of God that reflects, frankly, the way that Jesus brought the kingdom of God over and against the dominion of darkness? Because when you look at how Jesus acted, he always acted with compassion to the hurting and the broken, but he acted violently towards the demonic. Now, it was a spiritual violence. It wasn't a physical violence. But if you look at the nature of his commands to demons when he was casting them out of people, there was a spiritual violence that was being acted
How
upon.
would you define spiritual violence? I would have said forceful.
Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily have said violence.
Tell me the distinction in your mind.
Normally, and again, I'm thinking about this now for the first time, but I think when I hear violence, somebody is hurt. Like you're going to break somebody. Like if I'm violent towards you, I'm going to hurt you. Versus if I'm forceful towards you, I'm grabbing you and throwing you out of the ring.
And I'm great with that word. He was clearly acting against the demonic in a way that they were opposed to.
Yes.
And moving them against their will.
Forcefully opposing them and forcefully moving them against their will. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they would have experienced it.
And I'm not saying that there's none of what you're saying. I just would say I don't know that
I want to acknowledge that it's a loaded term, and I used it that way because we are not called to a physical violence,
right?
And I want to be very clear about that. But we are called to a forceful opposition of darkness that is meaningful and strong and effective.
Well, I would actually say, I'm saying it for a reason in this, if I can make it more complicated. I'm not a pacifist, and I don't believe Jesus was a pacifist. Right. I actually am called to violence at points in time when evil is so out of control that I have to save a child or do whatever. I would do whatever I have to do. And as a Christian, I disagree with pacifistic sects of Christianity.
S-E-C-T-S.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, exactly.
Threw me for a second.
Exactly. And
lost my train of thought there.
Sorry for that. Bring it back, buddy.
You're getting the
Bring
real
it back.
raw conversation today.
And my reason is the second coming of Christ, there's going to be violence involved.
Yes.
There's no way there's not going to be violence involved. If you read the texts, he's going to bring the world to heel. The world will not bend. There's going to be force at the level of violence. And I say that because I think there is a reality. There's times you had to go to war against the Third Reich.
Yeah.
You have to do things, right, as godly people in a culture. But we are forceful way before we're violent.
Yeah.
I totally affirm that. And we're going to get to this later in the book of Ephesians. I don't know who has this message, but I think this is why Paul brings up the fact that our battle is not against flesh and blood.
Right.
We are not called to stand in opposition to humans. We are called to stand in opposition to the dark demonic forces that are at work in our world that are influencing humans.
Yes.
And there's a massive difference between the two.
And part of the reason I share that is I know a lot of Christians, not you guys, but I know Christian leaders who espouse violent language, even though they're not violent personally. I want to be real careful about that.
Right.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I remember, several years ago when things were a little hotter, I was calming people down all over the place because before I was a Christian, I was a very violent man. And I know where that goes. And I know what happens to you inside when you allow that to become part of your life. It will twist you and will make you somebody that you should never be. Yeah. And I don't want that for people. And I still struggle sometimes with strong desires in my heart to be forceful. But I have become more of a man of peace than I have that. And I have learned that over time from Jesus, and I've become more like him in that. And so I advocate. Yeah. But I'm not a pacifist.
Well,
and that's the difference.
And this is a conversation you and I have had in the past. I know that when we both became fathers and looked at the prospect of not us going to war, but our sons being compelled and being sent off.
Us.
It does. You look at that. It
absolutely changes us.
And you have a much more tempered, sobered view of the costs of what actual war brings.
Right.
And what I would demand of command.
Right.
I would really hate to send my son into a situation without competent command.
Every soldier is entitled to competent command.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. I think that all of this, it makes me think of like there a couple facets that are important to just like hold on to. Like there is a what, and I think oftentimes we in the world, we get wrapped up in the world and we just desire the what. Like what is the answer? What?
Mm-hmm.
But just as important is the how.
Yes.
Right. And so it's like holding these two things together, the what and the how. And the what is important because we do want to be marked by the truth. We do want to walk in the truth.
Yeah.
But there is a just as important how.
Yes.
And because if you wield the truth without the how of Jesus,
Totally.
like it does it's messy,
you
and
lose yourself.
you lose yourself, you lose Jesus in the midst of it.
You lose the ability to bring people across the finish line with you.
Yeah, and I think
I think that's a huge deal.
And that's our witness.
It is. That's our witness. Yeah, exactly.
That's our witness, and we can't lose that. And so there's
Exactly.
these two things, and I think that as you guys are talking, just makes me think about how important it is for us as believers. Like if you have said yes to Jesus, to following him, to him being the Lord of your life, like to having a holistic picture of who Jesus is, and like actually working to understand in what scenarios was Jesus more forceful?
Yes.
In what scenarios was Jesus compassionate? Because I think we can be surprised in both of those ways. You know,
when you think about this, because this is really complicated and this is hard, and I don't want to make it
I agree.
light of this, but I think this is a truth I've had to really fight to understand, and sometimes I have to fight to hold on to because it doesn't come naturally to me. But when you fight hatred with hatred, no matter which side wins, hatred wins. When you fight evil with evil, no matter which side wins, evil wins.
Right.
And so you can't combat the things of this world with the ways of this world, because the world will always triumph in the end.
Yeah.
Right.
And it has to be substantively different. I think for those people who are asking the question, how is it different? Then I think we're getting into the real conversation about how do we live and fight differently than the world fights.
yes.
For me, Dietrich Bonhoeffer is a huge example.
Okay.
He's a German pastor and theologian in the 1930s and 40s. He starts off, sees the rise of Nazism, immediately recognizes it for what it is, but doesn't think it's ever going to come to anything. He looks at it and he's like, this is ridiculous. These people are ridiculous. Everybody's going to know you're ridiculous.
Whoops.
Exactly. And so therefore he doesn't speak out much right against it, because it hasn't become a priority, and he's attempting to do lots of things. But as this changes, he is one of the first people that is openly calling it out and speaking about it. And at the time, tons of German Christians were siding with Nazism because it was a conservative movement, and it was against communism, and it was against the things that were plaguing Germany at that time. And so they saw this as a conservative ability to right the ship. This was a blue-collar movement. It was something that returned, in a sense, conservative values to the culture instead of where the culture, because it was a very decadent place. Germany in the 1920s was insanely decadent, and homosexuality ran wild, and it was a place where the average German was like, I don't like where my country's going. And this looked like a return, but Bonhoeffer called it out, and he took a lot of heat because they're like, what are you, a liberal? Are you and he's like, I'm not, but I'm telling you, you have two wrong solutions, not a right and a wrong, and you're forced into this binary of light and dark. How about you don't do that? How about you realize these are two dark solutions, and that the solution of light is Jesus.
Yeah.
And we need to start to form communities like Jesus did, and we need to start to live this out, not just individually, not just as a church, but as a society. Well, that got him in lots of trouble.
Yeah.
And he and several other German pastors are brought before Hitler, and they have this meeting. And Hitler basically tries to charm them. And he offers them incentives, and he offers them positions, and he offers them all these things. And some of them take it. And they sell out. But Bonhoeffer does not. And basically he remains in opposition, and that Hitler's furious. And so he takes him and he throws him into a concentration camp. And Bonhoeffer's beaten almost every day. And in the midst of this, Bonhoeffer, both the nonviolent opposition of Bonhoeffer and this, he is seeing what's happening around, and he shifts from attempting to just build the church to attempting to verbally oppose this, to then attempting to say, this is actually so bad, we have to kill Hitler. and he actually becomes one of the architects of the plot to kill Hitler.
Yeah.
And you look at that, and his evolution in that is unbelievable. But I look at it and I think it's not the only example, but it is a example that Christians should look at.
And it's notable he paid with his life.
And he paid with his life.
Yes.
And was willing to do that.
Yeah.
And I look at that and say, I'm not a pacifist. Bonhoeffer started off as a pacifist. He didn't end up as one.
Yeah.
But he also didn't go to violence very quickly.
Right.
And he worked unbelievably hard to bring people around to the better angels of their judgment. And that's how I look at what it means right now.
It's a great example.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us to remember, so I think we can look at singular examples, right? And then, I'm going to do just like that, right?
Yep, exactly.
And so I'm going to, it's time to do something crazy or,
Right.
big. And I think it's important to remember that, that leadership in that way, the way that he was leading, the way that other world leaders are leading, and all of, leading in the church, it all carries a mantle. And that is, ultimately, you are, God is going to judge at the end.
Yes.
Right? And you're accountable to God.
Exactly.
Leaders are accountable to God, and there's
deeply accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as believers too, it's important for us, in the leaders that we're looking at, to go to Jesus in that, and
Right.
Lord, where are they being led by you? Where are they, and use discernment and the wisdom that the Spirit gives us in that, and ultimately knowing, there is not one world leader that is perfectly following
Right.
Jesus or emulating Jesus, right?
Or maybe even attempting.
Or maybe even attempting.
Yeah.
Right? And so to align, to have a picture of this is the picture of Jesus.
Right.
Is not right, but to know that person is accountable to Jesus.
Yes.
Is right.
Yes. I think there are godly leaders in our country who really want to honor Jesus.
Absolutely.
And I think that they really want to take a shot at that, and are imperfect people and are going to make imperfect decisions. And I have a lot of grace and tolerance for that.
Yeah.
I don't have as much grace and tolerance for when we look at leaders that aren't attempting to do that, but they hold a lot of our conservative values or are going to legislate in a direction that we might want them to. And we equate their methodology with the result.
Yeah.
And we say that we bring their morality into Christianity and in a sense give us a different way of going about life. And that's what I want to say. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
We live, and I get this. There's a lot of things that I think are really bad ideas that we're pursuing right now as a society. Really bad ideas. And I'm not for that. At the same time, I think it is easy to get swept into a morality or a set of worldviews that counteract that without them being like Jesus. And I'm like, can we slow this train down?
Yeah.
You always bring a Hoosiers reference. I'll bring a Star Wars reference to you.
Love Star Wars
equally good.
reference.
Equally good,
Yeah.
The reality is, the evil emperor, his plan, Palpatine, his plan is he creates this army, right, to fight against the Republic, but then creates another army in order to overcome it and suppress it. And both armies are actually taking their orders from him, and he is actually creating a war of his own making to bring the entire galaxy into it so that he can work one part against another part. I look at the world and I'm like, this is the world we're actually living in.
It feels experientially true, doesn't it?
And I'm like, how about we pick a third option?
Yeah.
The way of Jesus. And we start living that out and actually start telling people about it. And just for the record, I have personally, privately held politicians to account. It's not like I have not. And either through emails or through personal meetings, I've been very happy to sit down with people and say, you're heading into a position that you shouldn't be. And we need to address that. And I have been positively surprised so many times that a godly, loving approach to people in power has been met with them thinking, I have not heard that perspective, or I didn't know, and being willing in some way to moderate it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we get in the mindset as there's no conversation to be had.
Right.
There's actually a conversation to be had, and particularly if you can do it personally.
Yeah.
There are some things that can happen.
And I think that's a really good encouragement in the sense of you can engage in the political system honestly and earnestly, and even optimistically, without putting your hope in the political system.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
That's where I think it's a mistake.
Yeah, 100%. The best of politics is a restraining factor on the evil in society, right?
Amen.
The church is the redemptive organization of God in the world.
Yeah.
Politics is never that. I think that we have an opportunity to show the world something else. And if we give up on that in order to fight a political battle, I think we have really succumbed to a plan of the enemy.
Yeah.
In the midst of that too.
And the moment you do that, you're communicating with the way you live that you think there is greater power in the political structures and systems than there is in the person of Jesus.
And can I tell you?
And that is honestly a betrayal of our faith.
It is, but let me say it in a different way. I think there's a whole lot of people that have never gone very deep in their faith, and so they've never had a transformational experience with God, and they have never seen their lives radically change, and so therefore they don't think Christianity has a lot of power. And they are looking for other sources of power.
Yeah.
And
that is the biggest problem we need to overcome.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think you said in the message, unity is not, Christian unity is not conformity.
Right.
Right. Christian unity is transformation.
Exactly.
And that begins with the person.
Exactly.
Each of us personally. And I thought that was a really good takeaway. Like if you take away one thing, just take away this and work on the transformation piece, right? And my vacation book, I read a book on vacation.
What'd you read?
I read Jesus and the Powers by N.T. Wright and Michael Bird.
Book.
Great book. So I think that like for people, like if this is sparking a lot of thoughts of like, I need to understand this more, that would be something I recommend.
And N.T. Wright is a British theologian, one of the greatest theologians of our generation for people who don't know. If you've never read N.T. Wright, he's not an easy read, but he's a good read.
Yeah, this one, I think it was co-authored, so it felt a little quicker.
Yeah, they're doing that for him these days.
Yeah,
they're like, hey, I think we got to help you dumb this down for everybody else.
But they had, in the middle of that book was a beautiful illustration of what I thought like kingdom building, right? And they talked about building for the kingdom.
Yep.
And this idea of each of us in our own lives and as the church, we're building something, and God, the Spirit gives us the plans for us individually to build. Like as we're in the Spirit and in Jesus, like He gives us the plans for us individually to build. And we might not have seen the whole architectural plans yet. We might not know what the cathedral looks like, but we know what the plan is before us and what God is telling us day by day what we can do to build for that. And that's all building for the future reality of the fullness of the kingdom to come. And what we build here now will be there in greater reality. Like what we build for the kingdom here will be there in greater reality. So if you do invest in that, I think it's so often it's really easy, and I have so much compassion, and because we all get caught in it of like, well, if I don't choose one side or the other, right? Like, am I actually making a difference?
Right.
Because there's no mass in the middle.
Right.
The mass is on one side or the other.
Yes.
And so if I'm choosing this way, am I actually making a difference? And our hope, what we have to remember is our hope. And our hope is in the future fullness of the kingdom.
I agree. And here's what I would say too. I don't know how to change the world in big ways.
Yeah.
What I do know is 17,700 people call the chapel their church home.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of people.
If all of us decided Jesus is what we're doing, I can tell you this corner of the world would look a little different.
Yeah.
And I think that's what God has put before us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to, change my block, but I can sure change my family.
Yeah.
I don't know how to change my kids' school, but I can start by changing my kids.
Yeah.
And I look at those things and I'd say, don't not do what's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
These are the decisions that we can make.
Yeah.
And there is no shortage of hurting people.
Yeah.
Within your reach.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of people who are desperate, who are hurting, whose lives are a mess, who's torn themselves into wounds.
Yeah.
They're all around us, and Jesus can heal them, and Jesus can change them, and they can see something that they have never seen in the world.
Yeah.
And we can't lose hope on that.
Mm-hmm. And that matters.
Yeah, it does.
And as we go in, as we click the microscope, we're going to keep seeing the closer and closer picture. But this is a lot, and I'm sure we're going to continue this conversation.
Yes.
over weeks and months, and
Yep.
There will be different times we pick it up. But I think that there's a lot to chew on.
Yeah.
For this week, and this has been a good conversation. But we are continuing our Ephesians series this week, and we have Denville.
I know, it's going to be a good week.
Denville's teaching, so it'll be a great week. We hope that you join us in person at one of our campuses across northern Chicago or southern Wisconsin. And if you can't join us in person, if you absolutely cannot make it to church in person, if there's something preventing you, you can join us online. But we hope that you join us in person, and then we'll see you next week.
Awesome.